Okay, so everybody should be able to see that. Yep, perfect. So, what we're going to be what we're going to be learning how to do, or learning how to make, is essentially how to make a bookmark. So I have this sort of comic bookmark thing. It's pretty much a comic strip that I made into a bookmark, and then I wonder what's going on with that. Oh. A comic strip that I've made into a bookmark. And so you can see it's just a strip of paper for the most part with some art on it and some text. And so when you could use it as a bookmark, use it as a comic strip, but when you pair it with an AR app or something that we could build in Unity, it allows for you to create an experience. And so I'll try to. There you go. And so when I place my phone up,
what's good, homie? Shh. I'm reading. Don't shush me, fool. How about you come outside and catch these hands? If I can't take my book, I'm not going. We better get your head out of that book, because life's about to come at you real hard, homie. Life is just a series of obstacles preventing me from reading my book right now. Well, bookmark that mess and let's rumble. I'm ready. Bookmarks. Bookmarks are for quitters. Real men don't quit. But I just want to play outside.
and so it's simple, just bookmark, have an animation sequence on it. I 2D animated some stuff. We could kind of explore that, but really the focus is learning how to create something that you could physically give to somebody and enable making it AR enabled or making it smart. Right? I guess like the term is making smart bookmarks or smart art. And so that'll be what we'll be focusing on today. And so part of it is we're already sort of downloading Unity and sort of working through the trial and tribulations of the software. But before we really dive into that, we will actually be just focusing on working with paper, and then we'll get to a point where it's time to digitize it, and then augment it. And so we have paper over here. We have like pencils, markers, all that stuff. If you want to join along as we just sort of like make something on paper, you can while the software and everything is downloading, and then hopefully by the time we finish with the paper and are ready to get to the Unity stuff, everything should be good. Fingers crossed. And so if you want to just sort of like watch as we make it, you can as well until we get to that point. Otherwise, you can go ahead and grab some stuff and we'll go ahead and get started. And so for those that are still like downloading Unity and everything, you want to make sure that like obviously the Unity hub is downloaded, and then also like a Unity editor version is downloaded. And those are really the main things. And then Vuforia, but I think there hasn't been, everybody else has pretty much been able to download Vuforia pretty. Yeah. And then just having just sort of a license key and all that. Because most of the AR stuff that we'll be working with is going to be like using our webcam as a way to do it. So it shouldn't be too much of a hassle.
Is there any install with the Vuforia?
You just add the package in. You just import that package, and then that's about it. It's
So in the hub, is that where we have the package?
No, so you'll just create a new project first. So once you have, just have that one, and then you just create the package, and then you just sort of just drag and drop it into the folder, and then just have it import. Yeah. Oh, I guess I suppose one other thing that we will do is we'll just find some stuff off the asset store. But if you're able to open up Unity, you should like have the license to download stuff off the asset store too. I mean, it's all free stuff, so shouldn't be too bad. Shouldn't be too bad. Fingers crossed. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so I am going to switch over to the webcam that shows my fingers right there. And so I'm not gonna try to reinvent the wheel. You know, what I enjoy doing is sort of like working with templates, and those templates allow me to create, sort of expand on the idea and focus on the creativity and not getting too bogged down on the details. And so what I'll be doing is I'll be just following the same template for this bookmark, where I have essentially like a comic strip on it. So I'll just have different boxes and have it being vertical, just like a bookmark would be. And so the first thing that I'll do is essentially try to replicate the size of this thing. And so I know that I'm going to use probably like the edge of the paper. And so I'll just draw a line down just so it has that bookmark look and feel. Something that's, you know, longer rather than wider. And so I'll say that like this area that I have, you know, just have this with a bold line. I'll have this area be where my bookmark, what I'm going to do to create my bookmark. And so by having this area blocked off, it tells me, okay, this is the space that I'm going to be creating in on the left. And so what do I do with the rest of the paper, right? I could actually use the rest of this paper as sort of like my sketch pad, something where I could sketch my ideas, figure out what I actually want to create before I actually put it on the final part. You know, because we're in Portland and, you know, we're very like conscious of our environment. No point in, you know, wasting more paper than we need to. And so we could use one piece of paper as both our brainstorming template and then our final template for a bookmark. And so what kind of bookmark should we make? What should be our theme of it? You know, what's trendy today? Any suggestions, takers?
A theme for
Yeah, like what would be a good theme for, you know, a bookmark?
I think it's summertime,
Summertime.
but that's kind of boring.
Ooh.
I feel like summer's very broad. You could do plants, you could do beach balls.
I like it.
Whatever.
Summer books, that's I'm really yeah, summer reading.
Summer books. So like summertime. We got books. We have the beach. We got plants. Okay. And so in this same sort of theme, I'm thinking about, because I want to see how far, you know, part of this is, you know, we're working with a traditional medium, right? We're a bookmark. Bookmarks have been around for decades, if not centuries, right? That's the only way you could, you know, make sure you don't lose your page is if you put a bookmark on it, right? And so we're working with a piece of technology that has been around before the digital age. And so how how can you make it more relevant, and how can you push the idea of what a bookmark can be and can do? Um, it could be as fantastical as possible, or it could be simple. But when you're working with emerging technology, even the simplest thing is going to be, out of this world, right? Like it's unimaginable. And so, um, with what I showed you, it had animated elements, and those animated elements allowed for you to create a story that you could watch. And so why not create a bookmark that you can watch in some way, shape, or form? And so that allows for us to involve some animation. It allows for us to do some sort of world building and scene building, and it allows for us to incorporate a variety of multimedia or transmedia, different mediums into it, like sound. Maybe we could do some voiceover stuff. Don't have the best microphone on the MacBook, but we can make do with something, right? We can even do some 2D stuff. We'll see. But I really like how from the top of the bookmark or from side to side or bottom up, we could actually create an experience that allows people to enjoy the bookmark when they don't want to enjoy their book. Because I think that's it's there's a lot of opportunities to provide entertainment that go beyond just the form factor. And so we'll say what the So I like summertime, got books, got beach. What if I have 3 panels? And so I'll just sort of like sketch on the side. And oh yeah, you guys can see that. I'll just sketch on the side. I'll just sketch, 3 little panels. And this is me just coming up with ideas and brainstorming them right now. So when when I have those ideas solidified, I could just apply them to my bookmark. And so I'll say I want 3 panels right now. And one panel will just be a sun and just a beach, I'll say. So we got some blue water, so just blue water. We have some sand. We'll have a sun and sky. Something simple, right? And so then the next one, we'll just have a field with some buildings. So we'll just say, we want some grass, and we'll just have some buildings. And then maybe some people. So we'll have some people just sort of walking or just standing there. So just city, grass, and people. And then the final one will have mention books. How about we incorporate some books? We'll say books. Probably, I don't know, books at the beach. With animals. So we'll say we'll have, some water, again, the sun. We'll have some animals. And these animals are reading some books. I don't know. So it's like that, that's what we're going to try to make. Just something quirky. And so now that we have that, what I'll do is I'll actually just make the borders for each one of my panels. And if you have a ruler, you can use the ruler. Otherwise, you just try to use, just try to sketch it out as best you can. And so the first one that I have is going to be my beach. And maybe I could add a palm tree. Why not? And give it some texture. We'll see. And that'll be our first sketch for our first one. It's just, we just have sort of a beach scene. And so we just have that sketch or just a rough draft of it. And then we just have our nice little loose sketch that we'll go ahead and um, move on to the next draft when we get there. And so the next one we have is just some people, and those people are in a grass, and there's a city in the background. So I'll just sort of create a foreground with some grass in it. And then we'll have some people. And I'm not really going to give the people too many details. We'll just give like silhouettes of the people. It's like, you'll get the gist. And then we'll have a bunch of buildings. It's like a cityscape. And so we have another sketch, and that one's just people in a field, and there's a cityscape in the background. And then last but not least, I'll have one where there's just books and animals. So I'll just create, a stack of books. And then we'll have a book that's open. And then we'll have some sort of animal. We'll say a bunny. It's a nice little rabbit, just getting his reading going. And I'll have maybe a little cat. And then I'll have a caterpillar. Screw it. Yep. So I first started off with with a nice little rough sketch. And then from that rough sketch, I was able to create essentially 3 different scenes that I had. Uh, a beach scene, some sort of cityscape, and then some animals reading some books. And so now that I have that, what I'll do is I'll just go over all the line work, and all that line work I'll go over with just like a black pen or an ink pen or a marker, and then from there I'll color it. So that's what I'll do right now. Okay, so now. Okay, so right now I just did the final line work for it. And so now I'm just going to go through and color it. And this should, I mean, it shouldn't take too long. Just kind of just going through the motions at this point. Okay, so got that. Let me actually find. Suppose you can't really see the people as easily anymore, but yeah, we get the gist. We have a grass and a cityscape. Then last but not least, we have our animals. And so I'll just have my caterpillar be green. I'll have my bunny be sort of like a brownish peach color. I have a purple cat, because why not? And then I'll just, color these books. Got some blue books. Got some red books. Then I'll have these pages be a color. Just like that. Just a background color. Yeah, just like that. Boom. So we have, so from there, I ended up with, had some ideas, wrote those down. Then I was able to create some like rough sketches, thumbnails of what I wanted those panels to be for the bookmark. And then I just went through and sketched it, inked it, colored it, and this is what I got. I just got Yep, ended up with a pretty decent thing. Not too bad for spending 30 minutes on it. And so now that I have my bookmark art, I can go through and I can digitize it. And so, instead of using a printer and instead of using a printer and on using a scanner, I'm actually just going to just take a picture of it. And so what I'll do is I'll just open up my camera and I'll just try to get as good of a picture as possible. Just take a nice little picture, get that snapshot. Then I'll just go into my picture settings and I'll just crop it. And so I'll go through, just crop the picture. I get modified if I need to. And pretty much, I have my actual image target or my bookmark, and then I have a picture of it right here. And so now that I have the picture, I can go ahead and start making, I can first send it to myself because that's probably what I need to do. So I'll just go through, I'll just send it to myself as an email. I'll just say our bookmark. And then here is my bookmark. Boom. And I'll just hit send. Like that. So that is done. And so what I could do now is, if I wanted to, I could just fold this, just right along that line. And I'll just fold the rest of it inside of it. And this is what I got. Nice little bookmark. Just like that. And here's the digital version. Like that. And so I'm gonna just walk around and just see how everybody's doing.
I'm still picking animation.
Oh yeah. So this is just having it sort of
No, I
come
was
out.
trying to have the wave, but my wave is, having the wave move forward and the bird move
Nice.
back. We'll see.
Cool. I like that. Yeah. Hey, I mean, you could just have it just sort of grow up and then come back down. And then you got that already set up.
Yeah.
Okay. we're able to get, oh yeah, you have, is it 21, 23, 26? Okay, yeah, so that's the latest version. Cool.
That's good.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, we got India. I really like the line work. You got some really good line work. I'm not gonna lie. Oh yeah, look at that. Okay, so everybody's just looking pretty good. So now, ready for the main event. So at first, well, actually, yeah, so let me just go ahead and move to the FaceTime camera so that people can see my face again. And what I'll do is I will just share my screen. And this screen is going to be the screen here.
Oh, I can add that to the stream.
Yeah, let me see. Okay, so that's that. So now I want it to, which one do I want it to?
Wow,
Well, that is trippy.
that was great.
Nice.
That is trippy. Okay, so I want to, boom, I'll move that over here. And then I will open Unity. And that will be right here. Perfect. There we go. Yeah. Okay, so now that we have our our bookmark, we have it digitized, and now we can move on to the Unity stuff. So by this time, you should already have Unity downloaded, and so when you open up Unity, you're actually going to be opening up the Unity Hub. And what the Unity Hub is it's pretty much like your one-stop shop for everything like Unity, right? And so you install your different versions here. You can do the learning modules. You could do some like blogs and forums here, but we care about the projects part. And so before we start, you just want to make sure that you have a license set up. And so you just go to this like preferences part and just make sure you have a license activated. Normally, if it doesn't have a license activated, like it'll say like add license, but most people that have it downloaded should have already had it done. And so once you have that, we'll just go to new project. Do the latest version. I have mine is 2021.3.4, but yours may be 2021.3.6 or some version of this. I just haven't updated mine to the latest version because didn't get around to it. But it shouldn't be a problem. And we're going to choose the 3D core. We're going to choose the 3D core one. And so once you do that, you will have the opportunity to name the project. I will name mine just like AR Bookmark, just to make it easier. And if you can't find the 3D core, you just want to go to all templates, and then you should see 3D core should be the second one on the drop-down list. And so once we have that, we'll just hit create project, and it'll essentially just start putting our project together so that we could open it and have a good time.
So at this point, it's just sort of loading elements of a template or something?
Yeah, so what it's doing is it's giving you sort of like the base template. Doesn't have a lot of bells and whistles in this template per se, but it's just sort of setting up a base project for you to build on. And so the way Unity works is that it downloads modules and different like packages. So you have this sort of like this folder with all these different files. And all those files are required to sort of set up a project. And then once you have that project set up with all those different files working together, if you needed to say, I needed to make an application or a game for an iPhone, it'll pull from those files that it downloaded and put in your project, and it'll allow for you to build for that one device. And if you say, okay, now I need to build this project for an Android device, it'll tell all the iOS ones to sort of like chill, and it'll utilize all the different files that are required for Android devices. And so it's like all these files and everything within one project. It can be overwhelming, but it allows for you to do different things on different devices without having to build completely new projects. And so it makes things easier. And so for the most part, as long as you don't touch folders you don't need to touch, everything will be fine. And so I have okay, so I have my Unity editor up. This is a 3D program. Most 3D programs look hideous and overwhelming and crazy. And if I didn't have anybody walking me through it, I'd be like, I don't know what to do, and I don't want to do this anymore. Right? So I'll just give you a brief rundown of how this works. So in the left, and well, the best thing is that like this works, like the way you can organize these are based off of tabs. So the name of the window that you have available or that are on these things, they have names to them. So you'll see that this says hierarchy. Your hierarchy is where all of your objects will be in sort of like a list view. So if you need to organize them and stuff, like you could actually just rename different things. You could create empty objects to create folders. This is where you sort of like organize all of your objects within your scene. And your scene is essentially the different projects within your project. And so you have a big project that I named called AR Bookmark. So everything involved with the AR Bookmark project will be in this project folder. And in order to access things in the project folder, you use the Unity editor, which is this whole, program that we're using right now. If you wanted to see a visual representation of your different like mini projects within your project, that's where you would do on the scene view. And so your scene view is sort of like the way to access and modify your projects within your project, your mini project. And so to navigate your scene view, you have a variety of different tools, and you'll see these up at the top. So you have a pan view, which you could sort of like click to pan. You have a move tool, which you're able to move different objects if you select on them. And notice when I select on a different object, like I'll select this icon right here, this camera. If I select it, then it's actually selected also in the hierarchy right here. So if I want to select the directional light, I just click it and I can move it around. If I want to move the camera, then I can move the camera by selecting it, just like that. This is how you could change your perspective. So if you're like, I need to just look at it from the left side or the back or the top, you could do that by pressing the top or the back, bottom, all those. In your inspector, each one of these objects that we have in our hierarchy has different attributes. So you know that if you select a directional light, you're probably going to have some light attributes. If you select your camera, you're probably going to have some camera attributes. And so each one of these different objects that you have will have different attributes you could change. And we'll actually play around with those attributes when we get into importing different assets and trying to connect our AR experience. Here at the bottom, I mentioned that there's a whole bunch of different files that Unity has for a project. And so in your project window, this is actually like your inventory. This is how you access all those files. You could actually right click and click reveal in folder or reveal in finder. And what that will do is give you, whoops, let me see if I can minimize this. What that will do is it'll give you an opportunity to play around with these different files in your finder. And so I'm in my AR books folder and I have assets, library, packages, all those different things. Tons of files in this folder for the project. But within our editor, it allows for us to work within these pretty seamlessly. And so I could add a new folder by just right clicking and create a new folder. So I'll just say images like that. And then I'm able to just use the regular folder system as a sort of a proxy for the Finder. And so I have all this stuff, have my editor, everything. There's this other one called a game window. And this game window gives us an opportunity to see what the camera sees. And so most of everything that we use is based off of a camera view. And so we see this is sort of like a 3D open world. And in order to navigate that, we normally use a camera to navigate it. And so for video games, the camera is going to be like a first-person camera or a third-person camera, but it's a camera that we see. And for augmented reality, typically that camera is going to be the camera on our phone. And so we know with like face filters or Pokemon Go that it utilizes our phone's camera for the augmented reality experience. Essentially, what we're doing in Unity is we're emulating that camera so that whatever the camera in the editor sees, that's what it's going to mimic for us in the real life. And so in a nutshell, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be adding a digital version of the bookmark into Unity as a reference for the physical bookmark that we have. And then we're going to make an emulator, like use an emulator camera that's going to emulate our phone's camera to essentially create that digital experience that we could call on when we actually test it out. And so it's a lot of big jargon, a lot of stuff to just say we're going to make a reference to our bookmark, and then when the camera sees that real bookmark, it's going to pull on the reference to have an AR experience. And it sounds a lot more complicated than it actually is. But essentially we're just gonna make some cool stuff and then see how it goes. And so before we get started, I normally will go to like file and build settings. And in file and build settings, you may have some like platforms that you could choose from. Typically iOS, dedicated, Android. If you have those available, particularly iOS, you could just switch to the platform by selecting Android or iOS and then clicking switch platform. If you don't have those available, it's not a big deal. It just makes certain things a little easier to navigate, but you won't really notice it unless you know what to point and click to. And so with this, the first thing that I can do is actually grab my bookmark image that I got before, or that I sent myself. And so I will just go through and download my bookmark image that I sent myself a little earlier on. And that bookmark image is this one right here. So I'll just click download, and then I'll just create a folder, and I'll say AR bookmarks. Now I'll just save that. I'll just save it and call it AR bookmark. And I just save it to that folder that I had. And then in there, I'll open up the assets or the images folder that I created in Unity, and I'll just copy that image over to it. And so now I should have an image here, and that image is my AR bookmark image. And so it's a little distorted now because Unity isn't seeing it as an image for a reference. So what I'll do is I'll select the actual file. I'll go to texture type in my inspector, and then I'll change it from default to Sprite 2D UI. and then I'll click apply. And now it's sort of, it widened out a little bit, and now it's the actual size that I want it to be. And so now I have the reference image in the right aspect ratio. It's ready to be used as a reference. And so the next thing I'll do, and this is with using Vuforia. And so we probably have already downloaded Vuforia already, and it's probably just sitting on either like our downloads folder or desktop. I downloaded it onto my desktop, I believe. If I can find it, yeah, right here as the add Vuforia package 10.8.4. And so what you could do with this is we'll actually just find where that file is on your computer, and we'll just drag and drop that into our project window, just in an open space. And when you do that, yeah, there you go. When you do that, it pops up a little dialog menu, and it just says it allows for you to import. And so I'll just click import and just wait for it to, give me a little dialog window. We'll click update. And it just takes a little while. And normally with the stuff, it always takes a little while to set up. But once you set it up the first time, then, being able to, just open up the project and just start making stuff is a lot quicker. But as we can see, it's done. Great. And so now what we'll do is I will go through and set up a new scene. Actually, before I need to do that, the first thing I want to do is just make sure all my configuration settings are good. And so what you'll do is you'll go, after it's finished installing, you go to Window, and then you'll go to Vuforia configuration. And this is where you just set up all the settings for the actual, the Vuforia SDK or program. The first thing we'll do is there's this thing called device tracker and track device pose. We don't need this on, and it could cause conflicts for us. And so we'll just uncheck that for track device pose. And then lastly, what we can do is we could go to add license, and we'll just create a license key. And so when you click add license, it'll take you to the license portal on Vuforia in a new browser. And so I'll just say Bookmark AR. I'll just create a new license key, and they're all free. And so it's just, it's not going to charge you anything. You just need this for it to work. And then I'll select within the Bookmark AR license key that I created, and I'll just copy by just selecting it. I just select it, and I'll be able to copy and paste it. And so I'll go back to Unity, and I'll just paste it, and boom, it's ready to work. It's ready to go. And so now that I have this, the last thing I need to do is set up my webcam. And so because I'm working off of my laptop webcam right now, I'm going to actually change the webcam that I'll test all my stuff on. I'll change that to the webcam that I have that's on my desk. And so I have all that set up to test out an AR experience. And so now the next thing I can do is actually just prototype out, just seeing if the AR actually works. And so in order to do that, I'll first create a new scene. And again, scenes are just sort of like mini projects within your project. And so I'll just go to, I'll right click in the project space. I'll click create, and then I'll click scene. And that's just going to create a new scene. and then I'll just call this bookmark AR test, like that. Then I'll just save whatever I did there, and then I'll double click to be in the bookmark AR test scene. And in the hierarchy, it'll actually have the same name as the name that you named the scene. So if you don't know if you're in the right scene, just look up at the top of the hierarchy and it should tell you if it's the right name or not. And so now we have our environment to create our AR experience. And so the first thing we do is we can right click, and when you right click, you'll see that there's something called Vuforia Engine there. And we'll just have an AR camera and we'll just add that to it. And what an AR camera does is it just mimics what it emulates or it mimics the features of our smartphone camera that we're going to use, or our webcam. And so this is sort of like a reference to our webcam or our smartphone that we'll use for the AR stuff. And so typically in Unity, like you only want to have one camera. And so since we added an AR camera, you could get rid of the main camera. You don't need it. So we just delete it. Don't worry about the directional light because that's sort of our lighting conditions that we can modify later. So we don't want to worry about those. And so the next thing is we're going to add an image target. And an image target is sort of like a QR code for AR stuff. And so since we have a bookmark, we could essentially take this bookmark and we could turn it into a QR code that our camera is going to recognize. And like everything else that QR codes do, QR codes sort of initiate the AR experiences. And instead of it just being just a whole bunch of like barcode looking stuff that only computers could see, we're essentially making it more relatable for our eyes. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to Vuforia Engine, go to image target, and that's what we're going to use, an image target. And so when you select the image target, you're going to see that you have some settings here under image target behavior. One is referencing the image. You have the opportunity to do different reference a database or a cloud service. We'll just use a regular image. And then we'll go into where we've saved our image in the images folder. And we're just going to drag and drop that over into this box right here. This box that says texture 2D for the image. Drag and drop it there, and it'll populate it. And so when I double click on the image, you're going to notice that the image that I just added is actually the reference to our bookmark right there. One thing to note is that if you just drag the image in, it'll add the image and it'll be much bigger. The only problem is that it won't serve as a reference to the for the AR stuff because it's not connected to the right software that Vuforia is using. And so you could have it in here, but it's not going to do anything for you. So ideally, you want to create an image target first by right-clicking, going to Vuforia Engine and selecting image target. And then through there, you can create that reference for it like that. And so because I like to work within sort of like real world conditions when I'm creating image targets, the next thing I'll do is I'll just like rotate. So I'll just use the rotate tool right here. And I'm going to just rotate the image target up like that. And so I typically have it at like, the rotation is around -90 degrees in the X rotation. And so now what this looks like is it looks like I'm just sort of holding it up in front of my face. And so it allows for you to create within the context that you intend on using it in. And so it's just a little thing. It's not going to make or break your experience, but it's just going to help when you're trying to contextualize different things in the experience creation. And so now what I can do to test this out, because I have my reference, so now I need to just see how the augmentations are going to look. And so just something simple. So I'm just going to add like a cube, a sphere, and then like a cylinder to each one of the different boxes here, and just to test it out. And so what I'll do is I'll just add some 3D objects. One object will be a cube, So I'll add a cube. One object will be a sphere. And then one object will be I'll do a capsule. Might as well. And how I did that is I just right clicked in this area in the hierarchy, and then I go down to 3D object, and then I just chose which one I wanted. But you'll notice that they don't appear right now. And that's because the image target reference is really, really small. And so if I double click on the capsule, just the capsule and the sphere and the cube are just huge. So I could just go ahead and shrink them down and make them just small enough to where they show up in the area. And so now I just made them small enough to where, you could see them. Cool. And so I'll just use the move tool. I'll lift the cube up to the first one. I'll have the sphere be in the second one, and then the capsule will be down in the third one, like that. And I'll just make the capsule a little smaller because it's bigger than I want it to be, like that. And so before we begin our first test, one thing to pay attention to is that in our hierarchy, as you can see there, in our hierarchy, each one of these are in the same level. And so when I do my AR experience, I'm not actually connecting the cube, the sphere, and the capsule to my image target. And so what we're talking about is being able to create a parent and child relationship between the image target and the cube, sphere, and capsule, where whatever happens with the image target will affect the cube, sphere, and capsule. And in order to do that, you're actually going to have to make the image target a parent of the cube, the sphere, and the capsule. And so what that looks like is essentially like, if we're familiar with like a tree diagram, where you, or like a folder diagram, where you can add, objects into a folder, and whatever happens to that folder will affect those objects. So that's what we're going to do. We're just going to drag and drop the capsule, the sphere, and the cube into the image target as a folder. So now you're going to see this like arrow right here, and that tells you that the image target is a parent of these three objects. And so when I turn it off, it actually turns them all off, like that. And you're actually able to hide them. And so whatever is a child of this image target will actually disappear or go within that folder, like that. And so everything looks good. What I could do before we set everything up is I could just change the colors of the cube and the sphere and the capsule. So I'll just make a new folder. I'm going to call them the folder materials. In that materials folder, I'll make 3 different materials. So just like a red, a blue, and a green one. So go to create, and then you'll see this selection here called material. I'll click red. And with the red material selected, I could go to where it says albedo, and this white box here, I could click it and change it to red. And when you do that, it changes the color to red. And so I could duplicate this again by just pressing Control or Command D to just duplicating it. I could change it to blue. Change this to green. And then in the green one, I'll just change the color to green. And in the blue one, I'll change the color to blue, like that. And so what I'll say is I'll have the cube be blue. So I'll just drag the material over to the cube and just drop it. Then I'll select the green material and I'll move that over to the green or to the sphere. And the red material, I'll move over to the capsule, like that. And so now I should be good to test it out. And so what I'll do is I'll click save just to make sure all of my everything is saved. And so when I show my bookmark to the webcam, what it's going to do is it's going to show the blue, the green, and the red object on it. And so I'll just click play. I will test out to see if my fingers show up. So they do. Perfect. And so I will actually try to do full screen. If I could do full screen on this, maximize. Perfect. There you go. So you see my fingers, see the bookmark. I'll show it. And voila, look at that. We have it working now. And so now that I have it working, boom, we got the AR working. And so now it's time to spruce it up a little bit, right? Because we don't just want to create a bookmark and then just have some shapes on there. But before I do that, I'll just, wander around, see how everybody is doing, and then we'll start to amp it up a little bit more. Okay. So I will take a little break, but before I do, one of the beauties of working in Unity is that if you don't know how to 3D model, if you don't know how to animate, if you don't know how to create like digital assets or 2D assets, but you want to be able to like put something together really, really fast, there's what is called the Unity Asset Store. And the Unity Asset Store allows for you to download some really, really interesting things for free and then incorporate them into your projects. And so what you could do, so say you have a flower that you want to animate, or you have some animals or whatever, you could essentially download that stuff as Unity packages and incorporate that into your project. And so I'll just show you how that sort of works. And so the first thing you do is you go to Window and you go to Asset Store. And then in Asset Store, you could click Search Online, and it'll take you to a web browser. And normally you'll be signed in automatically because you went through Unity. But say I wanted to have like some nature stuff. I could just type in nature, and I could go down to where it says free assets. And then I could choose this thing called a low poly simple nature pack. And it will normally say, download for free. Or if you have it downloaded, or if you have it, selected already, you could just go to Open in Unity. When you select it, it'll say Open in Unity, and you can just open it in Unity. And it'll automatically pop up what is called the package manager, as you can see right here. And when you have it, you could just click Download, and then Import. And it'll import all the 3D models and all the packages that you want, or that you saw in the project. And so what that looks like is that when I open up the Unity editor again, I'll have an additional folder called Simple Nature right here, because I downloaded from the asset store. Just that simple. And so now, if I actually double click on the, actually, let me see, make sure that I'm downloading the right ones. Yep. I have a got scenes. Yeah, there we go. So what I did is I ended up getting downloading a whole scene that has all these different assets in it. So I have rocks, I have trees, I have a mountain, I have grass. And so instead of having to 3D model all of these things, if I just want to test it out and put it into a scene, I could actually just utilize this within the Unity editor and stuff. So to sort of test out how quickly you could just sort of put something together, I already downloaded my assets. I have my AR image target here. I'll just create a new empty, and I'll call that AR content. And this essentially, like what I did is I created what is called a game object, and I'll use that as a folder. So any of my AR content that I want to put attached to my bookmark will go in the AR content folder that I have under the image target. And so it makes it easy to just like stay organized. It doesn't necessarily impact anything. It just allows for you to stay organized. So when you have all these moving parts and all these different things incorporated with it, you just put all your stuff in your AR content folder. And so I downloaded the simple nature pack. And so I could go to the prefabs folder and say I want to have instead of having a sphere, a cube, and a capsule, maybe I just want to have a flower, a flower, a tree, and a rock. And so I'll just take a flower, I'll put that in my AR content, I'll just drag and drop that from my prefabs folder. Then I want a tree, so I'll add the tree to my AR content. And then I'll grab a rock and I'll add that to my AR content. And so then I'll go through. It looks like these are really, really big. So I will just shrink them all. I guess they were really, oh man, I guess they were huge. Definitely huge. There we go. And so now you can see I have a tree model, I have a rock model, and I have a flower model. I'll just orient these so that they look the way that I want them to look. So, and so I'll have the flower be where my cube is. And I'll just go to the cube and I'll just deactivate that by clicking the cube, going to the inspector, and there's this checkbox here. If I deselect that checkbox, then it'll hide it. And then I'll just make the flower a little bit higher, a little bit bigger. I have this rock here. I'll have the rock be down at the bottom. And I'll just shrink that slightly, and I'll move that forward. And then I'll also hide the capsule by doing the same thing, deselecting that checkbox. And then last but not least, I have the tree. I'll just rotate the tree up. I'll shrink it down. And then I'll just move it in a different area and move it forward like that. And then I will also deactivate the sphere. I don't need the sphere. So deactivate that sphere. And so now, when you see, when I do the next demo, you're going to see a flower, a rock, and a tree. And so what we did is we just went to the asset store. We replaced the primitives with actual 3D models. And then and we actually placed all those 3D models into a container that helps us stay organized. And so when I press play, it literally should be the exact same thing, except for, we have 3D models instead of, cubes and colors. And so, like always, you will just click play, cross our fingers, hopefully nothing crashes, and we just enjoy that experience. So I'll click play. I will maximize. You see my fingers. Then we'll show the bookmark. And we have our flower and we have our rocks and everything. Just like that. Perfect. And so now that's the asset store, and that's how you sort of add additional models, 3D models, and search on the internet for that stuff. So there's a lot of free stuff, and so if you needed to, get a flower, if you needed to get a dragon, if you needed to get anything to sort of fit your theme, even if it's just a city block, if you needed to get any of that stuff for 3D models to sort of fit your theme of your bookmark, you could do that. And so, give you a little bit of time to just sort of explore the asset store and see what you could download. Preferably stuff that's free. You don't need to buy anything. You could if you want, but you don't need to. But once you get some time to do that, then I'll actually go through and build like a little mini scene or a little mini world, and we'll start to really add depth to what the capabilities are for just a simple bookmark. And so we'll do a little bit of like a scene building exercise when we get back to it. So okay, so we're at the final stretch. And so the final stretch is essentially going to be taking the theme that we had already, and we're just going to build out an interesting scene that we could superimpose into our 3D space. And so we'll see how far we can get. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to just create three different containers. And so I'm going to hide or get rid of the different folder or the different 3D models that I have. And so within my container, I'm going to create three empties. One will be a beach, which is for the beach scene. I'll create one for, whoops, I don't want to duplicate it. I'll create one for the city, which is the second scene. And then I'll create one for books or animals. I'll call it animals, like that. And so the beach is going to be for the beach. The city is going to be for the city. The animals are going to be for the animals, just like that. And so I already have some nature stuff. So what I want to do is I want to go back to the asset store and I want to look for some animals. And so look for some animals. And then I'll just try to get like a free asset pack of some animals. Yeah, this one, it looks like a lovely animals pack. And they look pretty cute. So I will take it. So I'll download some animals. And I'll open it in Unity. Like that. I'll click download. And I'll click import. And that'll import right there. So I got some animals. That's great. So the next one I want to do is we'll just do like a city. So look for a city, look for some free assets for a city. There's this one that has a city package. It's free. Cool. And so add that to my assets, click accept, and then I will open in Unity. And then I will download it and import. And it just takes a little while. But it's all imported, I believe. And so the last one I could do, I'll just try to do like a beach scene. So beach. And I'll try to find some free beach assets. Got beach essentials. Cartoon palm tree and umbrellas. I mean, that sounds pretty good. Like that. So I'll get the cartoon palm tree and umbrellas. I'll open in Unity. And then I'll download it and import. Like that. And so now you'll see that I have a whole bunch of different assets now. I have like some cartoon palm trees. I have this JK art, which is for some animals. And then I also have a city pack and a nature pack. I guess the last one that I could do or try to look for is like some books. And so let me just see if I can find some books. It's free, ask some books. And there are some books, a book pack. Yeah. QA books. So I have that book pack. And I kind of want this one. I like this one better. Yeah. So I'll go with this this free book pack right here. So open in Unity. Going to download, import. Perfect. So I got all the assets that I need to start building these scenes out. So the first one I'm gonna do is just focus on the beach scene right here. And so I'll just hide all the other ones because I don't need those. And so with the beach scene, I could just start off by just creating a plane. And with this isn't technically like AR related. This is really just like how you use Unity. But the way you apply this is can be applied with AR. And so I'm just going to just sort of create a little scene here, make it much smaller because I don't need it to be so huge. And I'll move it back because I don't need it to be so far ahead. And I'll just label this ground. And to just sort of save time, I'll just duplicate this 3 times or twice. And I'll just have a ground for my city and a ground for the animals too, just to save me some time. And so I'll go to where I had my beach and my palm trees. And so I have like the beach tile. I have my palm trees, so I'll just add the palm trees to my ground. Like that. And I'll just give it some good location. It's really, really big. So I'll just make it a little smaller. And I'll rotate it.
I'm seeing how people are doing, and maybe wind it up very soon. I said, I'm seeing how people are doing that, maybe we want to wind it up very soon.
Yeah. And so I have my little palm tree here. So I'll just make my ground just a little smaller. And then I'll add another ground for some water. And so what I could do is I'll give the blue to that, and then I'll just make a new material for my sand. Then I'll add that to this right here. And there's this tile here called a sand tile. I could add that to the albedo. And now I have this like sand material like that. And so what I could do is I could test this out and say, you know, when you look at the bookmark, it'll give you this like effect of having sand, a palm tree, and some blue water. It's not occluded or anything, but you essentially have the world being built slowly but surely. And so I'll just click and I'll click save, and I will click play. And so I'll just click maximize. You know, you can see my fingers. And so when I show it, you'll start to see more details than you did before. So now it's just slowly coming together. Just like that. And so the last thing I'll do to sort of finish this off, and then we'll just call it from there, is I'm going to create essentially a depth mask. And what that depth mask allows me to do is I can hide everything that I need to except for the little open box for the world. And so that open box will essentially be like the window into the world that we're creating. And I'll do that by first going to this thing called Polybrush. Actually, no, I'll be able to create it I'll end up creating it in a different way. So I'll just create a plane. So I'll go to 3D object, I'll go to plane, and then in that plane, I'm just going to modify it so that it creates a opening. So I'll shrink the plane down. And then I will lower it, raise this up, and I'll just duplicate this. And then I'll move it to the side, raise it up, duplicate it, bring it over to the side again, move it to the side here, duplicate it, and then I'll sort of pretty much just making a mask around it like that. So I can make this a little wider, make this one a little taller, make this one a little wider. And then I'll create this material called a depth mask. And what this will do is it will hide everything. So I'll click create, material, depth, and I'll change the shader, this thing called a shader, and I'll change that to essentially something that's going to hide any material in front of it. And I'll just replace the material for all of my planes. I'll replace it with the depth material. And so now you can't really see anything in the back, but you know that there's something there. And so I'll go through, I'll create a little sky. Oops. Yeah, I'll just duplicate this, create a little sky so that people know that there's this is a world that exists. I'll just move this to the back. I'll just scale it out a little bit more. And then I'll just change the material to like a sky material. So I'll just call it sky. Add it to this. So instead of it being blue, it'll be sky. And then I'll just have it be just like a light blue. And so now, everything that I have for this beach material should all sort of come together. I'll just zoom this out, make this a little bit wider so it gives off the effect really nicely. Like that. So now it looks just like a regular bookmark. Lower this. And so when I test it out, it should create a interesting effect. And so I'll just save it. And I'll click go. And so what started off as a just an image, then I added a cube to it. And then now when I show this and I put it in front of the camera, it should show an actual little world like that. And so we have a palm tree, we have our sky, we have our sand, and we have the water. And so now if you see it, right, we have the sand, we have the sky, we have the water, and we have the palm tree. If I put it in, now we have a 3D render of that actual scene happening now. Just like that. And so we ended up turning a bookmark into a little portal into a world, a digital world. And so you could add animation, you could add sounds, you could add all those different things that really bring this world to life. And it's just all about really applying, and we didn't have to 3D model anything. We just found some stuff off the asset store. We really explored the idea of what it looks like to create an augmented world with digital assets. And then we made a bookmark to sort of anchor that experience or anchor that idea into an experience that you could use to, save the page on your book. And so it's something pretty nuanced and mundane, but, being able to develop, skills and work fast and iterate on these ideas and really just treat the ideas as exploration points. That's all this is about. And so that's what I got for you today. We went from going from a sheet of paper, doing some sketches. We opened up Unity, we digitized some stuff, and then we were able to create an augmented experience that you could, use as entertainment or as a book saver. And so, again, my name is Stephen Christian. Like to create AR stuff and see where it goes from there. And so if you guys have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, thanks for hanging out with me and, doodling and stitching some stuff together.